Welcome back to another long interview on Not a Financial Advisor, Dan, where nothing is financial advice. Now, today I'm talking with Brian with a Y, Bryan, from Validator.One. He is one of the top validators on the Harmony network. And after speaking with him, I'm very confident in how delegating works, how staking works, how these validators set things up, the governance side of things, and if you watch this whole thing, you will be too. So if you like the content, feel free to hit that like button. If you want to support Validator.One when staking your coins on Harmony, you can do that too. The website, Validator.One. And this video is not sponsored at all. Just hit that like button, subscribe, whatever you want to do. And if you want to ask more questions for future interviews, I'll be posting them in the Full Value Discord, so there will be a link to that in the description. Feel free to join. All right, let's get started. So how did you become a validator? How did you get into all of this?
So I kind of got into crypto in 2017 and really kind of went down the Tron. Ripple at the time was kind of my first, Tron and Ripple were my first investments. And then, but Tron, I kind of got really into that community, joined up with a group of some other people from around the world, and we started a community validator on Tron. We were one of the first 27 super representatives, they were called. So we were like a Genesis rep. So we did that, I think, got elected in June 2018. And we did that, I did that for about a year. And then that kind of, with Tron, it's about 27 nodes or 27 validators, so much less than like a Harmony where there's 160 elected validators. And it was just very competitive. You basically had to have a zero commission rate and give like airdrop a token, or you had to go like above and beyond just to stay elected. And then even if you wanted to charge a fee, you basically lost a lot of that community delegation because there were other people who offered 0% fees. So that kind of, that's kind of like a race to the bottom when you kind of get in that kind of fight for election. So kind of during that, I was kind of getting involved with Harmony and really researching it. And I noted back in August 2019, they had a program where if you had 1,000,001, you could run basically like a proof of work validator on Harmony. This was before they had staking. Mm-hmm. So like the first 3 million blocks were validated by validators in that program. Like basically the initial program was like the foundation node program. Mm-hmm. And then staking, or EPOS, effective proof of stake, was introduced in May, I think 2020. So I validated pretty much up to then, but then you needed like 9,000,001 to get elected. And at that point I was like, I didn't have that. So I'm like, I'll just delegate to another node. But then back in like December 2020, I kind of got serious about getting elected and becoming my own validator. So I created Validator.One, and then we were elected January 2021. And we've been validating on the network since.
Now, the people that are delegating, I think, don't have a lot of exposure to validators. They just want to earn interest. They're looking for like low commission, high payouts. And I saw that you had a Reddit post about I think it was you, or no, actually I found it online. Someone was trying to start it up and they were doing promotions for it, and that's how someone can grow their stake in it, right? Is that one way to do it? So it all has its own different unique business model to grow, market, and become one of the validators.
Exactly. There's really two routes you can go. There's the kind of the self-stake route where you actually have enough to delegate to yourself and become an elected validator. Because right now it takes about, I think in this last election, I think the lowest amount staked that was elected was 3.2 million delegation, which is I think about like around 600,000 or whatnot, the current price. So yeah, so if you want to self-stake yourself, you need to kind of pony up the money and get elected that way. But the more common way is for like an individual, like ourselves to maybe have a little bit of a self-stake, but really go out to the community and kind of attract those delegations. And it's really, I think, the most important thing is just building trust with the community and just providing a value added beyond just validating, providing them updates, just staying connected with everything going on with the project, like Harmony, and just really kind of being their kind of support out there on and really representing them as a validator. So that's what I try to do. That's kind of my mission as a Validator.One, is just really provide that service to the community that goes above and beyond just signing blocks.
Oh, awesome. So for like any user trying to delegate, how would they choose a validator? Because I know some give back to the community more than others, but how do you determine that?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, I think the most common way is probably to go to the staking portal. So staking.harmony.one, and basically find the validator list there. People tend to sort it by either total stake amount, or they sort it by the commission percentage. So that's the fee that the validators keep for themselves, and then the remaining rewards go to the delegator. Or they sort it by uptime, where it's usually a combination of all three. So that's probably the most common way people search. But I think once you really get really deep into the community and see how the validators interact with the community and each other, you start to kind of probably find, you just get more involved, and you find a validator that really speaks to you and represents you, because the validators have a very important voice for governance. So we have to, vote on governance matters. So you want to be delegating with someone who you agree with. If there's a governance thing where it changes the protocol and you don't agree with that change, we probably shouldn't be delegating to that validator, because you're giving them that voting power. So once you kind of get deeper, there's those layers to it too. But the most common is, yes, just basically sort the portal and go by preference.
Yeah, I see. Because I have no idea what the proposals are, even on
right.
Harmony. I'm a very basic delegator.
Right.
So it is good to get that.
Yeah, and when you follow like a lot of the validators, if you follow them on Twitter, most of them have like a social media page. They should be, and most of them do give updates, on governance, things like that. So that's a good way to follow your validator too, is just follow them on social media, and hopefully they'll keep you updated that way.
Okay. For Harmony.One, there's only up to 160 delegators. Is that how the system works?
There's right now, there's 161 elected validators. But I think I just checked the number before the meeting. I think there's 285 validators in total. So that's like eligible validators, but then only 161 are elected. So those are the elected validators, are the ones who are actually signing the blocks and generating the rewards. Mm-hmm. If you're not elected, you are not signing blocks and you're not generating rewards, but you're basically like next in line, depending on your stake.
And then rewards are distributed evenly between the elected validators?
They're distributed basically based on your stake size. I mean, it's like as one of the larger validators, I'll get more rewards, but because I have higher stake amount, they split proportionally. So all validators earn generally around 10%, generally around the same percentage. I mean, the rate of return does kind of fluctuate depending on like uptime, so like node performance. There's 4 different shards on Harmony. So depending on which shard you're signing on, the rewards might fluctuate a little bit that way, but generally all validators should average around the same. Right now I think the last was around 10%, the last return.
I see. So I wanted to ask you about this. Let me share my screen partially. I'm wondering how this Africa.One and I Bless the Rain, they can do a return higher than the average of everyone else, 43% and 14%.
Sure. And that's really a mechanism of the effective proof of stake. Basically what EPOS does is it sets an upper bound range, an upper bound and a lower bound. So the upper bound is 135 times effective median stake. So I think right now the effective median stake, if you go to the analytics page where you just were, you can see the effective median stake. If you're above that, go to the analytics, it should be on the left tab, analytics. Do you see that?
This one.
On the left. Yeah, the side. So there you should see the effective median stake. It's 5.3 million. So if they're at 1.35 times that amount. So like say 7, I don't know the math, say 7 million. If they're above that, they're going to earn less rewards. If they're below 0.65 times that effective median stake, so say 3.2 million or below that amount, then they'll earn actually more rewards than the average validator. Basically what that is, it's EPOS is trying to make it so big validator, you can't get too big, and then the small validators are earning a little higher yield to help compete with the larger validators.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that so like on the analytics page, you can kind of sort by, I think, what the bid was. So basically, you have to bid each epoch, it's called. So if you just scroll down a little bit, you can see basically all the validators, how they bid on the last epoch, so that's their effective stake. If you scroll all the way to the bottom on that validator list, if you go up a little bit, see where all the validators are listed.
Yeah,
all the way down there. Yeah, that last slot, which was I think 900, that's the lowest amount that was elected the last epoch. So those will earn a little more, and that effective stake you can see like on the far left column. I think like the one right on top, staking. I'm not sure the rest of the name. But see how they have multiple slots.
Oh,
800. Yeah. So like you can, validators have multiple keys that they can bid. So it's not just one key per validator. It might be one key per validator if they're a smaller validator, but say they have, more delegation, they can actually split their stake into multiple keys.
Okay.
So they can earn. Yeah.
Can you explain keys to me, please? So
the BLS keys is what's assigned to the validator. Those are the keys that are actually used to be able to sign the blocks on the blockchain. So those keys have to get elected. So in order for a key to get elected, each key has like an assigned bid to it. So if I were to split my keys to where my bid was, say, 1 million, but the lowest bid, I think you can see now, is like 3.2 million, I won't be elected and I won't be earning rewards. So I need to split my stake basically to fall within those first 900 slots. And if you fall outside of that slot, you're not elected. So the unelected validators are the ones who are like below that 3.2 million threshold. But yeah, that's probably a more deep dive discussion there on the keys. But
oh no, it's still very helpful.
That basically allows validators like to split their keys so that they're still earning like an effective bid, but because if like Binance way at the top, I think they have 900 million delegated to them. They've actually not split their keys that much. So they only have like 20 keys. So their effective bid's like really, really high because they have a huge amount of stake, but they're like each key is like bidding like 45 million, but they're only earning rewards on the 7 million because anything above that upper bound is not earning rewards. So that's why their effective stake is 7 million, even though they have 20. So if you take 21 keys times 7 million, what's that, like 150 million, but their total stake's 900 million. So they're only earning rewards on 150 million of their one that they've delegated.
I see. So the keys down here are the most effective ones for earning interest. Is that what you're saying? Because they're using the most that they can get out of their key while still being while still having a slot.
Right. Yeah. And if they fall below that lower bound, that's when they earn the extra rewards. So if they can be low, but if they're not below that 0.65 effective median stake, they're not going to earn anything extra than other validators. But validators do bid aggressively and try to get those higher rewards by bidding low. But that's a risk because you could go unelected if you're bidding too low.
So that's the risk of like these higher interest ones, because if they lose their spot, then you don't earn any interest.
Exactly. Yeah. So especially the higher interest ones, I think on that validator list, basically that expected return is a 30 epoch average. Each epoch is about 18 hours long or about 30,000 something blocks, but that is a 30 epoch average. So they might have had one election where they had a really low bid and they earned a really high rate of return, but the next 29 epochs were just average returns. They're still going to have a really high return there. So I wouldn't base, if I were a delegator, I wouldn't base just off that expected return when I'm choosing a validator, because even though it may be a high return now, it's probably not going to be a high return next epoch. So you can, if you click on a validator, you can actually see their last return from the last epoch, which I think is probably a more accurate, representation of what their actual. So that return there is what they actually earned last epoch, rather than a 30 epoch average.
Is it lifetime rewards? Is that what it is?
No, it's the percentage, right? It should be there should be an expected return on there.
Oh, expected
percentage.
I see.
Yeah, or latest expected return. Go up a little bit, scroll. It should be the last number there.
Latest expected return 9.69%. So on average, people are getting probably that much.
Right. But if you noticed on the staking portal, I don't know if he was one of the higher, they were one of the higher rated.
It showed 43%.
Yeah, so exactly, see the difference there. So you're not going to earn 43%, unless they have a really low bid again. But that's why people do like bidding sometimes with this really small validators, because it gives them a chance of earning one of those like really high rates if it's like an anomaly. But it's unlikely that they're going to be earning that for consistently.
I see. That's very misleading, because
it is very misleading, and there's actually a lot of there's a lot of governance proposals actually based on improving kind of the staking portal. You can see the proposals on gov.harmony.one. And actually one of the proposals up right now is to change how the fee is showing too, and then the expected return. Because right now that expected return isn't netting against the fee that the validator charges. So if you click on that Harmony mainnet, that's where you can see all the main governance proposals. So if you ever want to see how validators vote or what the current proposals are, this is where you would go. So it like changes here. It's like fixing the ER to show like the net net commission. So what you're actually earning, instead of kind of showing just the return and then having a separate column for the fees. This proposal is trying to net the two.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, personally, I'm a little on the edge about this proposal. Because I think in general, the expected return, like you said, it's just very misleading. So I think before you try to fix something that I think is already kind of broken, I'd rather just see a bigger overhaul and a bigger fix to it.
Okay.
But I think it does make sense to show like a net number. I just don't love that expected return number, just because it is very misleading. And like you said, you see 40%, but that's probably not what you're going to earn. So I think it's a little misleading to delegators. Yeah, this is the governance. This is the governance portal where all the validators can vote, and it's based on stake weight. So, if larger validators have a little more voting power than a smaller validator, but all validators can vote, even if you're unelected. So even if you're one of the unelected validators, you still have a vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know about this. Yeah, I knew there were governance proposals, but I never actually looked into it.
Yeah, these are all the different projects. It's actually moving to snapshot, so it's going to look a little different in about a month. But
okay.
Yeah, this is all the projects in Harmony. They have their governance here. So like Venom DAO, if you ever, all these different projects, if they have any governance or any votes that they're doing for their token holders, you can see them all here.
Okay. So as a validator, how often do you have to like stay up to date on these things?
They're pretty frequent. So I mean, we have a lot of validator chats on Discord, Telegram. So any validator can propose a HIP, like a governance proposal. And basically the process is, if you want to put a proposal up for a vote, you have to go to the talk.harmony.one forum first.
Oh, okay.
Which is where you kind of post the suggestion before it becomes an official HIP or proposal. And that's where we get like feedback from the community. So if you ever want to provide feedback on a proposal, that's where you go to that talk.harmony.one forum and basically ask your questions there, kind of get the motive behind the proposal, the design, things like that. So
okay. How did you get into the Validator Discord group, or how was that created? Yeah.
What do you mean? How
did you find it? How did you become part of it?
So Well, in general, I'm not really sure. I don't really remember. I think I probably saw on like Twitter or something, way back when. I think it was Harmony was just advertising like, hey, become a node validator. Sign up. It was basically a program you had to sign up for and just had to give proof that you had the required one or whatnot. At the time, it wasn't anything staking. So I think I got involved that way. And then like the actual like Harmony Discord has like a mainnet node or validator kind of group. You can kind of keep track of things there too. And a lot of the technical discussion is on the Discord. That's where all the developers hang out. And
more questions on like some very basic questions about validators. What are the risks for people delegating to a validator? I know there's slashing risks, or there's risks of not getting that expected return, but like from your more experienced point of view, what can people really expect, like the regular person delegating?
I would say there's pretty minimal risk on Harmony network. Right now, they don't have slashing.
Oh.
That is in the roadmap down the line, but currently they don't have slashing. So your validator won't get your reward slash or your one slashed. So that's not a risk on Harmony. I would say that probably the biggest risk is either a validator going unelected, so either because they don't have enough delegation or they just stop their node, they just shut it off, and then you're not going to earn anything. But you keep the coins, so you can just undelegate and they go right back to your wallet. So that's not, you're not going to lose coins, but you might lose rewards if they're not signing or not elected anymore. But probably, I think for the average delegator, the risk would be basically you need to lock your coins for at least 7 epochs if you're staking.
And that's 18 hours per epoch?
Yeah, so about 5 to 7 days, depending on the epoch can change a little bit depending on how fast the blocks are being produced. Usually they're about 2 seconds per block. But, so you basically have to lock it up for 7 epochs. So if you were to delegate to a validator now, you would start earning rewards the next epoch. And then say you want to get your coins back and you want to delegate the next epoch, you would have to wait another 7 full epochs before those coins become available in your wallet to actually move around and whatnot. You can redelegate after only 1 epoch. So say you delegate to a validator, start earning rewards the next epoch and say, hey, I don't want to be with this validator anymore. You can undelegate, and then the next epoch after that, you can redelegate to another validator. So you can redelegate after only 1 epoch, but to actually get the coins back in your wallet, it's kind of like called like a cooldown period, I guess, because they don't want people just unstaking, and just creating a lot of network volatility if people are just taking their coins out and reduce, it can be a little volatile that way. So that's kind of the protection there.
So let's say from like another new user perspective, I know we went over like, the staking, the governance, but most people, I think they would automatically go to a big name they recognize, like Binance, even though Binance might not have the biggest rewards. What advice would you give them to like learning more about that?
Well, I would say one of the most important things as kind of a community validator, like myself, would be to get people to get those coins off Binance, off the exchanges. So that's always kind of the goal, because we want people to stake directly with independent validators. I think that's the best way to secure the network and really participate in the network, because you tend to delegate with one of the larger exchanges. They may not be voting. They may not really give you a voice on the network. They may not always being up to speed with everything, like probably an independent validator is like, into the community, really knows what's going on. So I think that, get your one off the exchange and stake with independent validator is probably my first word of advice to a delegator. But, as far as I would say that one of the first things you do before you even consider becoming a validator is really think about, this is if you're not going the self-stake route. If you have enough coin to elect yourself, it probably doesn't matter as much, but, really think about your brand, your logo, your name, Really, like you said, like it's a really can be a business. I think there's a validator economy to it. This it's fun to do. I enjoy doing it, but it does cost money. There are risk for validators, so it is a business to some extent, and there is marketing involved. And a lot of validators don't like to hear that, but it is what it is. And you go on any chain, it's going to be very competitive to become an elected validator. Actually, I think Harmony has one more lower barrier to entries to become a validator because it's so community focused. I mean, there's 160 validators, but you see some chains with maybe 100 validators or less, and the minimum to get in is millions of dollars, and it's all big name companies. And so I think Harmony, if you're looking to kind of become a validator, I think there's a lot of opportunity to do it. But yeah, do think of it as a business, and establish a brand, build that trust with the community. That would be a way to do it. And actually, I'm a governor on the Validator DAO, the Harmony Validator DAO, and we have a lot of initiatives in the works to help validators get started. One of them is a bootstrap program, where we're in kind of the process of getting funded. Trying to get funded for that has to be approved by all the validators. So we've been in the works trying to get a proposal passed on that, where Harmony would essentially I don't know if lending is the right word, but allow us to use about 60 million of the foundation stake to help bootstrap validators for up to 3 months. So, help bootstrap them to get elected, to get that past that 3 million hurdle, and get them as established validators. So that's a program that's in the works, and that's something we're really pushing hard to do. I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles for validators is getting enough delegation and become elected. And then once you're elected, you can offer rewards. So then it's just a matter of getting your name out there, getting in the community, trying to get those delegations. I mean, just like if you're running for office in politics, you have to try to get those delegations. So that's a big program that we're trying to do from the Validator DAO. The other one is a mentorship program, where that's probably more like the beginner phase of it. So maybe like someone like you who's really just trying to learn about becoming a validator. We're trying to get a mentorship program passed where we have basically 1 or 2 mentors that are paid through the DAO that are there to provide like a mentorship to newer validators, like 1 or 2 hour classes a week, just being a resource for them to answer a lot of the questions that you may have as you're kind of starting your journey. And I think that's really helpful because I had that kind of when I started to get serious with Validator.One. There were some elected validators who saw me trying to get elected, and they're like, "Hey, let me help you out." And they delegated someone to me, and they kind of brought me in a chat and just kind of brought me up to speed with everything, keys, basically everything you kind of need to know about becoming a validator. So I thought that was really helpful, and that's what we're trying to kind of recreate with the Validator DAO and the mentorship program. So I would keep.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great YouTube channel, just because it would also be a resource. Like, all right, go to this video. This is how you do everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And we actually are trying to build up, the Validator now is building up its YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel. Okay. And actually we just started a video series last week with another governor who's became an elected validator, where they interviewed him just to kind of go over like, hey, how'd you get started? What were some of the pitfalls you found? What can new validators, learn from your experience? So we're trying to do like more YouTube series like that. And with this new mentorship program, I think the goal is to record it so it does become a resource for the wider community.
Oh, awesome. Well, jumping back to delegating, what is your recommended wallet for people that just want to start staking with Harmony? Because I don't think you can do it with MetaMask, right?
You can do it with MetaMask now.
Oh, you can. When did that happen?
They just literally just this week.
Oh, okay. That was my one drawback from immediately staking. I was like, I don't want to set up another wallet.
Yeah, no, there was actually a big network upgrade, a hard fork this week that allowed for MetaMask staking.
Oh.
So that's a big one. Yeah. So you just have to add the Harmony network to MetaMask, and then you should be able to go to the staking portal and delegate.
Okay. That's awesome. I didn't know how to do that then.
Yeah, and actually, I think Ledger Nano X just got released compatibility too with staking, which was a big one because I don't think they had Nano X support. But like what I would do is, when I help family or friends, I usually like send them to Blitz Wallet on mobile. It's just an easy way to get started. And then when I have time, I'll introduce them to the desktop and all that. But Blitz Wallet has staking, Frontier Wallet, Garda Wallet. So there's a few different, mobile wallets that have Harmony staking. So that's probably the easiest way to get started, because you can just create a mobile wallet, just save your private passphrase and don't lose it. But yeah, MetaMask staking is available now too, which I think is going to open up a lot for Harmony in the DeFi world of things, because that was always something people were uncomfortable with, like having to download a third-party wallet and not MetaMask.
Yeah.
So I think having that MetaMask support is huge.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, we jump back to the business side of things. Like, as you run a validator, what do you need to get started? What are your recurring costs, and how do you guarantee that 100% uptime?
So I would say, Harmony is kind of nice because you can use obviously your physical hardware if you have something at home, a reliable internet connection. People run validators on Raspberry Pis, but a lot of people don't have that internet connection at home to keep that 100% uptime. So Harmony can actually use like a virtual, like a virtual private server, a VPS, or a cloud. A lot of validators use just dedicated servers provided through like either Hetzner or Contabo or DigitalOcean. But OVH, those are some of the popular cloud service providers. So you have to find basically a server that kind of fits the computing requirements needed to kind of keep signing blocks. Because if you get something too small, you're not going to be able to keep up with the blockchain. And then also finding a server that can hold the database of I think it's about, I would say if you're going to buy a server now, try to have at least about 2 terabytes in available storage capacity. So some people will buy servers, say with 2 times 1 terabyte drives and do RAID 0 and create a 2 terabyte volume there. But about 2 terabytes is what you need to kind of keep everything in sync and having the whole blockchain kind of on your node. Because if you don't have the whole blockchain, you're going to miss a lot of blocks. So you really need to have the full blockchain synced. Harmony is really trying hard to prune the database. So instead of saying you need 1.5 terabytes, they're trying to get it down to something much smaller, to allow for like smaller servers. Because sometimes you get you're paying for a lot of hard drive and a lot of power that you might not need. So it's like trying to find that right mix is kind of tough sometimes. So I think once they prune the database down and require a little smaller hard drives, it's going to open up a lot more flexibility and kind of the servers you can pick and what you can do out there, and keep costs down a little bit too, which will be nice.
So,
but I mean, generally, for cost wise though, I would say probably a popular, server that a lot of validators, I would say probably $70 to $100 a month per kind of shard you're signing on. Each shard, if you're on more than one shard, you need to have a separate node, a separate server. So there's 4 shards. You can operate on 4 shards, but if you do, you need 4 different servers. IP addresses, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So how many are you running, or how many, for example, should someone run if they're getting started?
Well, if you're just getting started, you're only going to have 1 key, so you can only sign on 1 shard.
Okay.
So if you have 3 keys, you could sign on 3 shards. If you have 4 keys, you could sign on 4 shards. But a lot of people will just have maybe say 4 keys and still only sign on 1 shard because they don't want to start more. They don't want to pay for more servers. So yeah, you would just kind of pick a shard that you want to be on, and then that would be kind of the shard you start with. I think the default shard is shard 1. If you're a new validator, I wouldn't recommend being on shard 0 because that requires more computing power. It's a little more of a challenging shard to be on. So I would say go to shard 1, 2, or 3. I'm on 3 shards right now. Was on 4 up until recently, but right now I'm just on 3. But I'm looking to get back on 4. So I basically will have my keys split between either 3 or 4 shards at any time.
So what's the difference between shards?
So the shards are actually where the transactions are being processed. So right now, I think all of the transactions are primarily done on shard 0. So that shard 0 is getting the most network activity right now. So that's why shard 0 requires more power, so much more transactions going through that shard. The other shards will be probably more utilized, I think, down the road when some of that load on shard 0 spread more evenly to the other shards. That's kind of what's in the roadmap, really, is to kind of start spreading those transactions across the different shards. So shards 1, 2, and 3, they're still signing transactions, but they're just getting less of them as shard 0. So shard 0 is really the beacon chain, it's called. So yeah, and those shards are what's going to allow Harmony to really expand to their goal of, being 10,000 validators. And, they want to start adding more shards to the mix. So not just 4, they can go to 5, 6, 7, that's what allows Harmony to be scalable, is by adding those shards.
Okay, so so as a validator, your rewards are the same. It doesn't really matter if you're on shard 0, 1, 2, or 3. So you actually don't need that much computing power to get started.
Well, the rewards can vary by shard because it goes by kind of like the amount of stake on the shard. So each shard, it's epochs. Epochs a little confusing, but there's Medium articles out there if you really want to dive deep into it. But so right now, I think the network stake is like 4.5 billion. That's how many one is delegated. So let's just say 4 billion for easy math. So say 1 billion is on each shard, evenly. Then rewards should be pretty even. The block rate, that's the block production rate. So how many blocks are produced per second, that does vary by shard. So if say shard 0 is 2.5 seconds per block, but shard 1 is 2 seconds, shard 1's going to earn a better rate because there are more blocks. There's
25% more. Yeah.
Right. But that's only when there's kind of like network instability. Right now, I think they're pretty even, the block production rate, but sometimes they do vary by shard. But yeah, if all things even in stake, yeah, then the rewards should be pretty average across all 4. But say 800 million is on shard 0, 1.2 billion is on shard 1, 700 billion is staked on shard 3, and then whatever left is on shard 3. Like the shards with the less stake amount are going to earn more rewards because there's less shard saturation on those shards. So there's less one being split across that stake, or there's less stake to split those one rewards across. So that does matter too, depending on what shards you are on. But what validators do is they'll change their keys around to be on the shards that are earning the most. So it kind of all balances out in the end.
Makes sense.
But sometimes the rewards could vary based on like how many validators are on shard 1 or how many are on shard 2, and that kind of goes by the number of keys that are on each shard. So once you really get into keys, you can see, okay, right now there's 900 keys in total. They're trying to get that to 1,000 keys. So if 225 keys are in each shard, then that's even. But sometimes there's like 230 keys on shard 3, but 210 keys on shard 2. So, shard 2 is going to earn a little more in that case, probably. But that's part of the whole EPOS, is changing the keys around. It's kind of like a whole game theory that EPOS, is. So it's interesting because you have to do these elections every 18 hours. So, it obviously when you have multiple keys, it definitely can, there's a lot of managing involved in that. But if you're just a single key validator, you're just on one shard, there's not really a whole lot of jumping around you need to do.
I also wanted to ask about like maintaining uptime. Do you ever have to worry about that? Do you get notifications if something happens? Do you have any like redundancies in place?
Yeah, so you definitely do have to worry about uptime. That's important. So there's multiple Telegram bots out there that are available that basically will alert you if you miss any blocks. So if you start to see you're getting all these notifications, like, oh, something's going on, I have to go check my nodes. Maybe I have to restart this Harmony service or restart my server. So there are times when you do need to kind of check in what's going on if there are any issues or missed blocks. But like I said, there's Telegram bots out there that can notify you if you're missing blocks. And then for redundancies, they don't encourage having like a redundant node, so like if you have one node signing, they don't encourage that you have another node signing too. But they do have you won't get slashed for doing it, because that's still in the roadmap, where if you do have two servers signing, you will get slashed. But right now that feature is not really in there. So people do have two active validators signing the same key. So that provides redundancy, because if you have one server go down, the other server is just going to keep signing, right? Mm-hmm. But Harmony doesn't recommend that, and that's something that's going to be going away, in the foreseeable future. So they do have, there was something on GitHub, like a bounty that passed, where there is like a backup or redundant flag. So like if you have an active validator signing, you can have another validator node or server that's synced with the blockchain, but you can change the you can make it so it's a backup node. And if say your other server goes down, you can easily switch that flag to say active on the second one. So that will kind of almost create another active node right away. That's not automated though. I think that's something that they're working on. So you would have to manually make that other backup an active node, but it allows you to just keep everything in sync, because you need to kind of, it's not instantaneous. So if you want to go start a server, you need to download the database. That could take a couple hours. So it's not like something you can just easily create a new backup node if something goes wrong with your main one. So you do want to have some redundancy. But all validators strive for 100% uptime, but the blockchain, to stay elected, you really only need to sign 67%, so 2/3 of the transactions. If you go below the 2/3, then you'll become unelected next epoch. You'll basically be triggered as an inactive validator, and you would have to go in and basically turn your validator back active again. But you could sign 70%, say your node goes down and you're away for a couple hours and you can't get to it, and you've missed some blocks, and you're only at say 70% uptime, you're still going to be eligible to be elected next epoch. Now, if you have delegators, they may say, hey, what's going on? You're only signing 70%, I'm only getting 70% of my rewards. But then that's part of like having that connection and trust with your validators. Say, hey, there's something happened, I fixed it, we're gonna be back to normal next epoch, stay with me, everything's all set, so you have to, that would just be communicating with your delegators in that regard.
That's
100% uptime. 100% uptime is what everyone strives for. I mean, some people, they kind of lose sleep if they're at like 99.99, but I mean, it's only miss 0.02% of blocks or whatever is pretty good. So
that is like a great thing to understand, because I'm like, if it's not 100%, it's like I don't want to go there. But there's really a very insignificant difference between 100 and 99.
Yeah, and experienced validators kind of like who know the drill, like they don't lose sleep over the 100% of time. Obviously, we want to have the best performance we can for our delegators, but we understand that it's a network. There's times we need to do upgrades. There's times, where you need to kind of like restart your service when the hard fork, for instance, you need to download the new node binary or the new software from Harmony, and you have to restart your validator in order to, so right there, when you restart it, you're going to miss some blocks. So I think 100% uptime is obviously a nice marketing tool, but it's not something that is critical. I mean, I think if you are going for delegators, so they do like to see that high uptime. And that's important, but I hate seeing like validators who are like 99.95% uptime, but they're not getting the delegation because they're not 100% uptime, when it's such a small difference, and there's probably a reason why they miss some blocks.
And I think that's something that the regular user doesn't understand, is like, okay, there's these things that happen, but there's not going to be any difference in rewards that you receive.
Yeah, and there's sometimes, even when it's totally out of the validator's control. So say there's an issue on, say, shard 1 or something. So all the validators on shard 1 might have an issue with some like signing blocks, but it's totally out of their hands. But then that's one epoch, they miss some blocks because of like network issues, or, and the Harmony team fixed it. Well, then that one epoch is sticking with them for that 30 epoch average, which you see on the portal. So it's like, they could be signing 100% for the next 29 epochs, but as long as they have that one epoch that, was a bad signing epoch, that's going to stick with them for 30 epochs and impact their delegations, because like you said, the average user doesn't really dive that deep into why they miss blocks, or are they, so yeah, it can get a little complicated like that. But I think all validators really strive to sign 100%. I mean, you'll see some on there who are at, say, 80%. Maybe those are the ones who aren't as active with validators. But
I see. So for the uptime that's being displayed, this is like a rolling consistent of the last average of 30 epochs. So if that needs to change,
Exactly.
they have to do 100% for the next 30 epochs to get back to that 100%.
Exactly, yeah. So if they have one epoch that's, say, 99.9 and the rest are 100, their 30 epoch average might be like 99.98 or 99.99 or something, or whatever the average is. But yeah, it can impact them that long. That's the same with the expected return. Those are 30 epoch averages on that. So yeah, that's the only kind of bad part when you have like a bad epoch, because it does kind of stick with you for a while.
I see. Ted, do you have any questions? I know we jumped through a lot of things. If there's anything you want to jump back
into.
It's
a lot to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of digest here, but I think we covered most of the main points. I guess one small question is if we are like a new validator entering into the game, would you suggest we market to like small people or to, let's say, people with big pockets? Because I'm confused. What will happen if, let's say, you have a lot of whales in your validator and then they suddenly pull their stake out of you? You're just no longer elected, or just entry strategy?
Yeah, that's a good question. So new validators actually have a little bit of an advantage over like an established validator. Last year, we passed a governance proposal where if you're a new validator, the first 100 epochs, so like if you become elected, the first 100 epochs, you can charge 0% commission. Whereas after you hit that 100 epoch mark, you have to charge a minimum of 5%. So that is one kind of tool you can use as a new validator. Say, hey, I have 0% commission. Bring your one to me. I'm not going to charge you any fees. So a lot of new validators do that as like a marketing strategy. There are whales, like people with a lot of one, who jump around to those 0% validators, so they don't want any fees. So they'll go to like a new validator, put a bunch of one with them, and then once they hit the 5% fee or the 100 epoch mark and their fee automatically goes up to 5%, they may pull out the one and go to the next 0% validator. So you can always find people who are chasing that 0% fee to market to. So that would be a good tool, I think, as a new validator. It's like, really, I've said this to other new validators now. I'm like, I don't see you guys advertising that 0% fee enough. I know if I was starting, I would say, hey, I have 0% fees, delegate with me. That's what I would be doing. But that's just one way to do it. Obviously, you do want to go, I think my node has almost 3,400 delegates. So like Validator.One is like number one on the network as far as the number of unique delegates, and probably pretty wide margin too. So I think our largest wallet is 15 million, whereas some of the other large validators, their largest wallet's like 180 million or something like that. So I have a lot of the smaller delegates, which I like personally, because you're obviously representing the community. You have that many delegates, the community's really showing a lot of trust in you, which I appreciate. And then it just helps the volatility too. Like, you don't have that risk of losing that one delegator who could push you into unelection status. If you have a lot of delegators, it's harder to lose that election status like as fast, because it's more for 3,400 people to undelegate than it is for 10 people or or whatnot. So you do have, I would say, as a new validator, you do want to go kind of for those large delegations, because those are the ones that are going to get you into that, getting that elected status. The 3.2 million or whatever it is a really important milestone step, because that's going to get you into that validator list, and then have eyes on you. So you do want to go for the people who, and there's delegators out there who watch just for those small validators getting started, and they say, hey, I want to support them. I want to throw my one into them and get them going. There's one wall that he's called like Wallet 19, who I think has like 80 million one or something, or a lot of one. And he's notorious for helping small validators. So he might have like 2 or 3 million one with all of the small validators, just to get them to that elected status. So there are definitely, I know this for a fact, there's validators or delegators out there who are just looking for those new validators who are contributing to the community, helping advance One, helping advance Harmony, because they have a lot invested in it. So they want to see, who's really putting in the effort, and they'll support you. They'll throw, $1 million or 2 at you in delegation. So it can be really discouraging. A lot of new validators are wicked discouraged after a while and they end up quitting. But it's just, I think if you're providing something to the community, someone's going to notice, and I think good things will happen. You just have to be patient, and there's a lot of resources out there. We have like the Validator DAO, we have a Validator initiative chat where all like basically the new validators are in right now, and we're in there helping them, giving them advice. And it's just helpful to, I think, if you're serious about becoming a validator, to be in a chat like that, because you're constantly bouncing ideas off each other, and talking about servers, talking about like what's the best thing to be, all the stuff that, you can go to docs.harmony.one. That's going to be like the guide to set up the validator. But there's just so many nuances that you need to have those kind of connections and be able to kind of bounce ideas off people and talk to other validators. So like I said, there's a Validator initiative chat, and I can send you links, Dan, to all these different chat rooms or whatnot if you if you want some resources.
I would appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you after the call. I'll send you the link to the Validator initiative chat. I actually told some Validator DAO governors that I was meeting with you today and talking about becoming a validator, and they're pretty pumped because that's such a big goal of ours. I think the goal for the Validator DAO is to try to get up to 200 elected validators. So that's a big goal for us. Harmony wants 1,000 validators.
Oh.
Right now we're at 160. So the next step is 200 validators.
Yeah.
So it's a really strong push to get validators on board. So I think if you are starting now, it's a good opportunity for you. And I'll send you the link so you can start to connect with some other newer validators, and I'll be in the chat. A bunch of other validators will be in the chat, some really smart people. So
awesome. I appreciate it. I also wanted to ask, do you run this validator completely by yourself, or do you have like people you work with? Is there a team?
Well, I'm definitely the primary operator. I have the keys. Sometimes that's the hard part about validating. So you can't use a multi-sig wallet, so it's hard to find people to really trust with the validator keys. So right now I'm the main person, but I do kind of consider a team like me, and my wife, helps a lot with just things too. So we are kind of a team, but I'm the primary operator.
Right. Separate airplanes to Denver, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, she's good. She's staying home, but yeah, I do want to expand the team. I'm actually going to be, spending a lot more time on the validator the next couple of months. I'm taking a little break from the workforce to kind of focus on this and some other, things I have going on. So I'd love to expand the team, especially from like a marketing or because I want to get on other chains too. So that's kind of a goal of mine as a validator, is to expand to other chains and building out the other communities and just kind of go in that route. And that will take some expansion, but it's also find the right chain right now. Obviously Harmony, but what other good proof of stake networks are out there. So that's kind of the research I'm doing right now.
Ted, anymore?
Yeah, a lot of validators do operate just independently by themselves. I mean, very rarely do you have any uptime issues. So I mean, it's just keeping the nodes updated. If there is an issue, being available to fix it. Being available to answer communities delegators questions. But it doesn't need to be a 10-person team.
Well, that's good to know. I think you also mentioned that they're going to bring on Bitcoin validators in the near future.
Bitcoin Vault is what they
Bitcoin
just
Vault.
released.
Yeah.
So basically it's the Bitcoin bridge. So you'll be able to bridge Bitcoin from the Bitcoin network over to Harmony. So if you have Bitcoin, you can bridge it over to Harmony and get 1 BTC. So Bitcoin Vault operators That's like a separate server you're running, and you can actually earn like a fee on providing that kind of that bridge service. So you're kind of the middle person. So yeah, I think it's like 0.5% fee that all operators can earn, but you have to have a certain amount of one to collateralize it. I'm still learning a little bit, so I don't want to speak attitude, but that's something that's new. So that's just another opportunity, I think, in the whole scheme of things where Harmony's just kind of expanding their ecosystem. And, it is a way, if you do have someone to earn some additional, fees and you actually earn it in you're in the fees in one BTC. So you're kind of earning Bitcoin, essentially that you can, so that's nice if you have someone to lend to that.
So it's kind of like a one Bitcoin liquidity pool.
Exactly, pretty much. Yeah. So that's btc.harmony.one is where you can see that bridge. And then, you can basically, there's vault operators. So you're providing that liquidity. But you do need to keep a certain amount of one as collateral in your account. But that actually so you have to run a separate server for that. So like I have a vault where, you have to keep it synced, pretty much all the time. But that one only requires like a 4 GB hard drive, like 2-core server. It's like maybe like $10 a month to run that server on that one. So it's much less costly than a validator server.
When is this going to go live?
The BTC Vault that's live now. It just went.
It
just went live a couple days. It just went live a couple days ago. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very big week in Harmony One.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a big week. I think with also the hard fork too. There's Coinbase Rosetta was part of the update, so that was big. I think for Harmony.
What's Coinbase Rosetta?
I think it's part of the API framework that I think Coinbase requires. So maybe it's a step in getting listed on there. So I don't know. I don't have the insider scoop on that, but that was a big upgrade for Harmony to have that Coinbase Rosetta.
I mean, if it's called Coinbase Rosetta, I think that's going to be some positive news.
Yeah, I would say people who have been hoping for Coinbase have been tracking that update pretty closely, I'll say. So that was in the last hard fork, which was big. So it was a big week for Harmony.
Very cool. Ted, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. It has been an insanely awesome chat.
Yeah, we got a lot of great information.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Brian. Is there anything else you'd like to recommend? I think I'm going to reach out to you about starting one of these up, just so I can walk through the process later.
Yeah, I would say if you like data and analytics, a really popular site, and he's actually a vault validator, SmartStake, harmony.smartstake.io. You can find a lot of more data and analytics on validators. You can see see uptime. You can see all the different elections, how many keys are bidding. There's like an election tab where you can kind of see what's the required bid for the next epoch. So you're really bidding to get elected the next epoch. So I set my keys now, to try to get elected the next epoch. So at the epoch change, that's when my bid will matter. So that's what that election tab there. That's a pretty popular site that a lot of validators use. I think and just if you are looking to delegate, until you get your node, check out Validator.One. Validator.One. That forwards right to the Harmony staking portal, and then there's a link to my Twitter, I think, in there too. It's Twitter. It's just @Validator.One. I am working on a. Yeah, I am working on trying to get a website up and running too. So that will be something down the line, but.
Very cool. I really appreciate you taking the time. Have fun at ETH Denver, and we'll chat when you get back and have time to walk me through some of this. Yeah,
we'll have the next round. Yeah, we can bring on some more people. I'm definitely happy to walk you through the next set of questions you may have as you kind of start your journey.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks, Brian. Catch you later, Ted.
Yep. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Ted.